Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, everybody. I'm Preacher Mars, host of the SOS, the shout out show. Welcome to our platform. We hope you're having a wonderful Saturday, brothers and sisters, and that you've decided to tune in to our subject matter today. I just want to give a shout out at the top of the show. I want to give a shout out to Dr. Yvonne Sivan, who gave me a call earlier today. She's one of my other moms. I have several moms. As you know, I have my mom, I have Dr. Yvonne, I have Sister Victoria, I have about five moms that always keep me in check. But I just want to give a shout out. She called me. I was already having a good day, brothers and sisters, but it just took the day to another level. And I always talk about check in on your elders. It's amazing when your elders check in on you. That being aside, I have three names I want to put out. Michael Weiss, Steve Burke, Bill Broadnax. Let me say it again. Michael Weiss, Steve Burke, and Bill Broadnax. Why are these names important? These names are important to me because at a very young age, I was introduced to the idea and the concept of bullies. Two of the bullies were white. Of course, Michael Weiss, Steve Burke. The last bully was black. His name was Bill Broadnax. Now, there's a lot of things to unpack about all three of these gentlemen. We won't get to all of it. But it intuitively ties me into what I see in the world. Part one of Dissecting Bullies we did a while back, I kind of looked at bullies and I talked about their moral contempt for things, if you will. How they approach the ethics of others, how they looked at their own securities. I spoke about those things and I spoke at length. One thing I didn't do, which I'm going to try to address today, is the function of bullies in society. One thing I didn't do, when you talk about somebody's character, you're not necessarily talking about the environment that produced these activities, that produced these actions and attitudes, if you will, or behaviors. And I'd be remiss if I didn't say that I didn't really go far enough to understand that sometimes the actions of these bullies are not necessarily the actions of people who are really want to be oppressive folks. These are people who choose oppression over insecurity in public spaces. Funny stories about these guys, sad stories about these guys. But it lays a particular foundation, if you will, for things I was able to do later on in life as an adult. When I met real bullies, like systemic racism, like Islamophobia, like xenophobia, like all these phobias, if you will. And I began to understand how to navigate these things, these people, these actions, even up to today. When I look at a person who doesn't want me to be around because they feel like they are entitled somehow to a little bit of superiority over me, despite the fact that they have no work ethic, despite the fact they have nothing to back up their intelligence or their morals, or, for lack of better words, their conspiracies. Even the conspiracies these days are weak. But I thought it'd be really, really interesting to kind of just dissect and peel back, because the three bullies I gave you, they all had individual narratives. And as a child, when you're a first grader, second grader, you don't understand it. You think that the world is against you. You really, really believe that these kids want to hurt you. I was fortunate to get older, brothers and sisters. I got older. And when you got older, you got to see where the bullies grew up, who the bullies' parents were, what their religions were, what their home situations were. And in that, I can say I developed a little bit of empathy. I don't condone bullying, brothers and sisters, but I do condone being in touch with your own emotions and your own spirituality to say, you know what? I don't approve of that, but I understand where it's coming from. And sadly, I understand where it can go. As a man who's performed at stages all over the country, all over the world, as a matter of fact, you meet all kinds of people. You meet people who are submissive. You meet people who are oppressive. You meet people who want to be other people. Hell, that's the way it goes. But this particular category of bullying really interests me today because there's so many people now trying to be bullies. If there's a PhD for bullying, I bet you could fill up that class. And I think it's really important because we talk about it so much at the education level, our children, the experiences in elementary school, but we're not really talking about the bullying that happens at the political level, hell, at the spiritual level. You know, I'm Muslim, but I know we got Muslim bullies. Call it what it is. Call it what it is. I could see somebody go, I'm fitting to cut preach off right now. Yeah, we got Muslim bullies. Just like, yeah, Christian bullies and Jewish bullies. That's it. Religion is not sacred from bullies. So I just want you guys to strap up. We're going to get into this thing a little bit longer. And I appreciate you. And I'm going to ask in advance for a little bit of patience because I have to recollect a lot about these situations and try and tie them to things that I'm seeing today. So I'm pulling a little bit of Al Jarreau. So I'm gonna start in jazz, but I'm gonna go to R&B, and then I'm gonna move over to pop. And in the end, I hope that this gives you a nice goulash, if you will, of information and ideations, if you will, that you can use for yourself to improve your situation, or inshallah improve the situation of somebody else. This is Preacher Moss, shout out show. Let's hit it. And we are back, my brothers and sisters. Yes, indeed. Thank you again for coming to the show. I appreciate it. We want to get right into it because I know we have things to do. So actually, so I had to move the camera angle because I just want to make sure I'm not getting nosebleed like that. Plus, I got a couple of gray nose hairs. Nobody wants to be scared with that. All right. So for anybody who's coming on the show for the first time, we appreciate you coming. That's number one. However, we're not going to do a long soliloquy about when you're coming on the show. Listen, you're on the show. We appreciate you. Get in that comment section. Let us know who you are because we're definitely going to let you know who we are. And click the links on the thing. You know the deal. The social media link, like button, subscribe button. I don't really care. That's just me being honest. I literally don't care. I know Satana's like, you better care. I really don't care. That's why Satana handles all of the social media. Otherwise, we would have 4 subscribers, and that would be my mom buying another computer and subscribing again. All right. So I want to get into this topic, but I want to give a shout out to everybody who's in the comment section already. I want to give a shout out to our steadies. When I say our steadies, I mean our steadies. I am the host of Shout Out Show, but at the same time, I'm also a fan of the Shout Out Show, and I'm a fan of the Shout Out Show family, a fan of the Shout Out Show soldiers. I celebrate them on the regular. And it's not because they come to the show; they come to the show with a particular attitude. When I say when they come to the show with a particular attitude, it means that they come giving. I feel warmth when they come to the show. I feel goodwill, and I'm saying that as a grown man saying that it gets me excited to see goodwill in between other people, to be, for lack of a better word, a witness to it and being able to turn. It's a big deal for me. That's a very big deal for me. And then it also is going to tie into what we're going to talk about today about dissecting bullies. Okay. So we're going to give to so if anybody is watching right now, you want to get your shout outs. I know how frustrated it is. People will get on and they'll be talking and you're not going to get well, you're going to get recognized today. This is Shout Out Saturday, brothers and sisters. So let's get into it. Sister Satana, who we got first? We got Sister Reed. What's going on, Reed? I hope you had a good time at the Corey Holcomb show yesterday. God bless you. I hope you had a good time and you enjoyed yourself. I know they put on a heck of a show. Peace to you and your family. For those who don't know, Ree is the craft services dietitian for the Shout Out Show, has been and will remain so until further notice. All right, Ree. Next up, we got my main man, Altaf Rashid. Altaf, who is the Canadian ambassador to the show. I know there are a lot of shows out there, but we have an official ambassador. He's made sure that the quality of the show is magnifique on both sides in three languages. That be English and French. I said three languages. I guess the other one I'm making up a language. I'm sorry, just two. Just do two languages. The last language would be uncertainty. That would be mine. I just threw that in there. So, hey, Altaf, thank you so much for coming on the show, brother, man. And I appreciate you. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Next up, Adam Khan, my main man. What's going on, brother? Also from Canada. I might have to make you a senator from I might have to make you a senator from Canada or prime minister or something like that, Adam, because you are on the show as well. So we're gonna have a prime minister and an ambassador on the Shout Out Show, if at all possible, from the great country of Canada. Next up, wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, sister. I hope that you're doing well. Hope that family's healthy. Brothers and sisters, let's give a shout out to Sister Ika's family. Some of her family members, unfortunately, been hit with the COVID virus out there in Indonesia. And pray for the people in Indonesia because that variant and the lack of vaccines. We've talked about this. The lack of vaccines creates a scenario whereby this COVID thing is going to be around for a while. Just because it's going down here in the United States doesn't mean anything if it's going up all around the rest of the world. So we have to be cognizant of that. We need to pray for our brothers and sisters. We pray that Sister Ika's family get complete health and shifa. We pray to Allah that He heal your family. All right, great. Next up, we got my brother JT, Johnny L. Thomas. What's going on, little brother? Glad you can make it to the show. You know, we appreciate you, man. I want you to jump in on this bully thing. I want you to jump in. And I'm gonna set it up nicely, inshallah, where you guys can understand where this bully thing kind of comes from. Particularly when you're younger, in your teens and things like that, particularly when you're younger. All right, JT, hang in there, man. Make sure you jump in the comment section. Don't be laying back, boy. I think you just jump on the show sometime and go get a hamburger. And go Bucks. All right. Sister Reese said she had a blast at the show last night. Corey is an absolute, as a comedian, he's a beast. But I mean, to see what he does to a crowd is hilarious, brothers and sisters. It is absolutely hilarious. And I'll be checking them out sooner than later. Next up, we got a consultant producer, Sister Satana Whitfield, working the back end of the StreamYard podcast, not the StreamYard broadcast. And appreciate you, Sister Satana. Sister Satana said, we're going to keep this thing tight today. That's the way she gave me today. We're going to keep this thing tight. So let's go ahead and jump into it. Brothers and sisters, let's jump into it. I gave three names at the top of the show. Three names I want you to remember. One was Michael Weiss. The other one was Steve Burke. And the last one was Bill Brodnick. Michael Weiss was white. Steve Burke was white. Bill Brodnick was white. What they all had in common was throughout my career in my elementary school years, brothers and sisters, they all tried to be bullies towards me. They all tried to be bullies. Now, Michael Weiss, he was my first bully. I moved from Southeast Washington off of Southern Avenue. We moved to the suburbs. School had already started, and I really had a rough transition into first grade. And he was my first real racial bully. He was my first racial bully where, he would call me you black boy or things like that. And it really got under my skin because, my parents were extremely pro-black. And if you said black the wrong way, like it wasn't beautiful, then it was a problem. And I say he was a bully, but let me add this though. He wasn't a good bully. That boy couldn't fight a cold. What he was very good as a linguist. He could say threatening things, but he couldn't back it up. And once you realize he couldn't back it up, I myself, like a lot of other kids, particularly black kids that got bussed in from Glen Arden, we would beat the brakes off of Mike Weiss every day. So you would see him try to bully people and be like, that guy's gonna find out in a minute that he can't fight and it's gonna be over. But what I understood about Michael Weiss as we got over was that Michael Weiss was programmed to do that. Michael Weiss was programmed to do that. There was a certain part of the PTA that did not want us there. Now, this is during integration and busing. There's a certain part of the PTA that didn't want us there. And so in some regards, he had sanction from his parents. And I love to say that later on, Michael Weiss and we became good friends. We did not become good friends. The community got darker and he moved. Alhamdulillah. We got tired of beating that boy up. In fact, we would beat him up just because he thought he wanted to be a bully. But there was one incident. And I remember this really, really seriously. Even though I make jokes about we all beat up Michael Weiss. The one endearing thought I remember about Michael Weiss is that Michael Weiss picked on a kid who was not only black, but was disabled. Not only black, but was disabled. And in kind of a weakened state, Michael Weiss sought to take advantage of this person, a young girl. And I can say that I went overboard. And because I have an older cousin who is disabled, challenged, whatever you want to say. And it really hurt me that you would hurt somebody who already was dealing with challenges at such a young age. Michael Weiss framed in my heart that people could really, really be cruel for no reason at all. And I'm in my 50s now, but that never ever went away from me. That somebody that young could be that cruel to somebody who was already having challenges. And we weren't even past second, third grade. To the point where a physical beatdown of this person, of this bully, it still wouldn't remove the taste or the sting, or you couldn't unsee what he did to this person. That was Michael Weiss. The second bully, his name was Steve Burke. Steve Burke was a little bit different. Steve Burke was bullied from other sixth graders, and he bullied second graders. Myself, a couple other second graders. So physically, I couldn't beat him. He's a sixth grader. It was inherent, And in the second grade, I don't know if I can relay this, but when somebody beats you up a number of times and you know that physically you can't beat that person, you're either going to submit to the fact this person's going to keep beating on you, or you're going to get innovative. I chose innovative. Many of you have seen the video Love Supreme. The drummer is my childhood friend, Leon Alexander Sr. He and his sister used to babysit me. And he used to always watch me. And I would not let Leon jump in when I was dealing with Steve Burke. One day I said, we got to come up with something different. What we came up with was the black kids that were in the school understood the situation. And I said, I'm not going to take this whooping from this guy. So on this particular day at the playground, at the end of school, towards the end of school, Steve Burke was giving me a hard time. And I took essentially a tree branch, something like that, while he was not looking, because I felt like, hey, you ambushed me. And I really laid upside his head, like whack. I got one in. You know how it is. You know how it is when you hit somebody and it vibrating in your hands. What? I was like, ooh, that was a good one right there. Oh, and he started crying, but he didn't want to say he got. But you can see it in his eyes. I'm gonna kill you after school. So at the end of school, we had this plan. The plan was how long can you run and how fast can you run? Because Steve Burke lived this way towards the white folk, and we lived this way towards the black folk. Took off running. He was so upset. He just took off running. And I'm booking at whatever. Steve was a little chubby, but I'm booking. And by my mother's house, there was a huge row of bushes that you couldn't see the house really. So you couldn't see around the corner. And so essentially, I ran till I got to that spot, and then Steve Burke got closer. And I strategically let him get close. And when he came around the corner, there were all these black kids from junior high school and high school. And we all jumped on and beat the snot out of Steve Burke. The type of bully Steve Burke was, he was an environment bully. He was an environment bully. When I say an environment bully, I mean that he couldn't beat up anybody, so they look for people to step on. And part of that stepping on is to make sure whatever it is, brothers and sisters, whatever it is that you're trying to do, you will not be able to do it. He's sort of like a clarifying bully. Like when we do or we talk about voting rights, it's not that voting rights are being taken, and they are. It's that they make sure that you have the feeling that you can't do anything about it. That for all of your achievements, all your gifts, all your talents, you can't stop this because, quote unquote, they make the laws. And I don't mind making laws, but make the laws fair. But nobody said you got to make them fair. Steve Burke. Now, the last bully, if you will, his name was Bill Broadnax. The difference between Michael Weiss and Bill Broadnax was Bill was black. And he moved into the neighborhood. And he was a bit of an outsider. He was muscular. He was huge for his age. Let's just say that. Bill Broadnax was huge for his age. And I always say he looked like Magilla Gorilla. But he said something to me. That's, he was a new kid. And I said, that's why you look like Magilla Gorilla, thinking that I had the cachet of being in the neighborhood for a long time, and I did not. And Bill tried to hem me up, and I was like, oh, this is going to be a problem. And essentially, Bill bullied me for about, 2 weeks. That's when you walk in, they take your lunch and all that type of stuff, You sit there, and all that. Where your lunch at? I'm like, say something else, I'm finna take your lunch. That's the way it was. So a bunch of us, he had us hemmed up. Essentially what happened was the older guys in the neighborhood got a hold of Bill. And they put one on Bill. That's when they would whoop Bill and they hold him and say, come on here, get you one. You'd be like, and then you run away. The type of bully Bill Broadnax was he was misunderstood. He was misunderstood. He wanted to fit in, but Bill didn't have the social skills. And he moved from a challenging situation. His mother, Miss Broadnax, was an angel. She was an angel. And Bill lived with the stigma, particularly this time. It wasn't so fashionable back then. Bill's mom was a single mom. And we would talk about dad things. Our dad, and Bill would sit silent. And then we realized that Bill didn't have a dad in the house. And instead of really rallying around our brother, we were young, we were immature. That was the fun because you're talking with 10 kids, all 10 kids got 10 dads in the house. How about that? And he felt out of place. And here's the other thing about Bill. And this is why he picked on me. Bill Broadnax, like myself, was an only child. And so maybe the connection that he wanted with the only child we didn't have because I was the only child, but I had a dad and he did not. And his acting out was different than Michael Weiss and Steve Burke because he wanted to be liked. He wanted to be a part of something. And so in this space, a lot of times when we talk about dissecting bullies, and I've given us 3 situations, large in part, it has to do with the environment that either nurtures or rejects. It either nurtures or rejects. There's a great example in the book, The Great Transformation by George Polanyi. And it's in the early thousands, 1100s. And at this point in time, brothers and sisters, they give the scenario of herders, shepherds would take their herds and graze or take them to get water. And this has been a long-standing tradition. But on this particular time, some way, they go to the watering hole and they find that the hole is warded off. Someone's gated it off, so they can't get to the water. So the herds have walked along. They can't get to the water that naturally was free. Imagine you go to the ocean and there's a fence by the ocean. You would be upset. That's a horrible affront, right? So this happened to the shepherds. And a person came out and said, well, you can't have the water unless you give me something. And you've created a condition. And the person says, I don't have anything to give. And then it becomes a bartering system. Ironically, that's how rent works. Somebody said, you know what? I don't know what the word own this property means, but I own this property. And for you to be on this property, it requires some type of transaction so that you can stay on the property, so you can access the property. It's in these times, brothers and sisters, that we create morally, spiritually, the haves and the have-nots. We create a classes, if you will. And each person I spent to you, I broke down the 3 bullies. All of them suffer from a class distinction. The first one, Michael Weiss, his parents sent him to do that bidding. He was not a good bully. He got beat up a lot. Trying to use the N-word, trying to call people black, trying to call them dumb. But he was a puppet for his parents. He was a bad bully. Steve Burke was a traumatic bully. He figured people beat on me, I'll beat on somebody else. The people who are more accessible to beating on them, that's who I'm gonna go after. The people I could be more successful with, and he wasn't successful. And then there was Bill Broadnex. Now, let me throw this out here. Bill Broadnex and I got to be good friends. We got to be good friends. We lost touch when his mother passed away. But for that time, brothers and sisters, I learned what that behavior was. And ironically, it's a thing that led me into education. Not regular education either. I signed up for special ed, severely emotionally disturbed kids, because I understood the need to normalize, in some regards, attention-seeking behaviors. That these things are somewhat cries for help. All right, when I watched the insurrection at my mother's house, and I watched it and I said, these people are really in pain. These people are really in pain. And the thing that drives them even more insane is that there are people who are not in as much pain as they are. The willingness and wantonness to inflict terror on the people is a scary thing. And it must be said that there are folks in the world who look for any and every opportunity to do so. So our politics is politics, because you found people in scenarios that say, you know what? I may be wrong, I may be a liar, but I'm bigger than you. Or I have the gravitas of the law, state law, Supreme Court, federal law, or of course, constitutional law to do what I'm doing. You know, and Adam and Althoff, uh, please, I don't know if you're in touch with them, but I've been reading about these schools up in Canada where they found these massive graves of uh, Native Americans in Canada. They literally were calling off Canada Day, which was, you know, very. They responded to the fact because it hurt them that the, you know, First Nation citizens, First Nation tradition had somehow been soiled. That these people had been killed, and they exhumed these graves. They found these graves, and these were the graves of children. These weren't the graves of adults. And even in Canada, there's a thumbprint, there's a crime scene that's centered around bullying. And Canada is a beautiful place. You know, I like Canada. But even in Canada, we still have that situation. So let me throw a couple things here and then we'll wrap up. Dissecting bullies. I would say it'd be more incumbent upon us to understand the environments that people exist in that lend themselves to hurting people. Can we actually speak to environments that hurt people? And I don't mean just in a specific way. I don't mean police brutality. I don't mean racism. I'm talking about the type, brothers and sisters, of pain where you just stop believing about everything. The type of pain where you have no faith. You know, I read ShOUT every Friday. Inshallah, I try to. And there's a piece in ShOUT about young men who put their faith in Allah. But it's clear that they have to be protected, that they can't say what they believe out in the open space because they'd be persecuted. Or they would, like they say, be turned back from their religion. So even in Quranic text, you're talking about a modality of bullying that went on. There's no prophet that's come down the way who didn't have to deal with bullying. Are you aware of that? They had to deal with some type of just adverse environment meant, for lack of a better word, to pull them away from their faith. That's number one. Number two, I'm going to skip number three, but number two is, can we begin to craft environments that not only nurture these people, but actually in some regards heal them? Because 10 times out of 10 or 9.5 out of 10 times, well, 9.5 out of 10 times, let's be honest, the things that hurt these people or the people that hurt these people, they never repent for their sins. So these people walk away broken and incomplete. They don't have, you know, when you're a victim and you don't have access to a victimizer who says, I was wrong, that creates a void. You know, that creates a space whereby questions are not answered. I gave you 3 bullies. You know, Bill Broadnax was the one where I could say, you know what? I actually got to talk to him about what was hurting him. And my mom knows Bill Broadnax. She's on the show. She remembers Bill Broadnax living on hurt people. Yeah. And my mom actually went and talked to Bill Broadnax's mom. Because it became ridiculous. Because we were used to, this is crazy, but we were used to white bullies. We weren't used to black bullies. And my mom went down the street to Shepherd Lane and took that left. And Bill Broadnax's house was the second house up the street. And my mother came back. It was all resolved. And I said, what did you do? Mom, she don't even remember. She said, I went in her house and I hugged that boy. I said, Slug? She said, I hugged that boy. I was like, oh, you don't flip for the whole team. Damn. Because it was only a mother's love that could make that situation heal. And it brought us together. And I remember having little events and Bill would come. And when we got older, like I said, we grew apart because that's family and things like that. And they moved out of, they moved out of the neighborhood. And his mom passed and I felt bad. And it was interesting because we caught up briefly. But I remember and I appreciate the fact that I got to see somebody comes full circle. Because a lot of times people see somebody turn this way and they think that's the way it's going to end. It stops it. No, it goes around. And so we have to have that patience. So to the bullies out there, Michael Weiss, I'm sorry I beat the brakes off you. No, not that real sorry. Steve Burke, I shouldn't have done what I did, but hey, I was in second grade. Sue me. And the Bill Broadnecks. Wherever you are, my friend, I hope you're doing well. I hope your family is productive, fruitful, and that you get to look at your children and send them out the door knowing and having full confidence that they're not being bullied. I want to give a shout out to a friend of mine. You guys know my other brother, Rick. I got a lot of brothers, JT, Rick. There's a friend of our childhood friend of mine. His name was Tony Abney. A very good guy. Unfortunately, Tony Abney had a brain aneurysm yesterday and passed away. So peace and blessings to the Tony Abney family. And Mr. Abney, Miss Abney, and of course his wife and kids. Tony, we pray for you, and may Allah reward you for all your good works and our childhood memories, as well as our childhood, mischievous, being mischievous, if you will. But it's a loss, and we hope that we all learn from these mistakes, brothers and sisters. To take a call like that. And Tony was younger than I was, younger than we were, Rick and I. So just instead of wasting that time sometimes with this bully stuff and this politics, sometimes you got to reach out and make sure that people are okay. So with that, let's get to our sponsors, and then I'm going to let you guys get to your 4th of July weekend. We'll give a shout out to BeFinanciallyIndependent.com. Again, that's BeFinanciallyIndependent.com. That telephone number is 1-888-496-6845. Again, that's 1-888-496-6845. Make sure you check that out. And we're also going to give a shout out to Bayan Islamic Graduate School. Make sure you check them out. Hey, if you're thinking about a quality Islamic education at a graduate level or doctoral level, you want to check these guys out. Amazing group of people, and really just an amazing concept to take graduate and doctoral studies and create a platform whereby you can get it if you're a full-time worker, or even if you're not full-time, you want to go be a full-time student. They make it accessible, and they make it a reality. I am living proof, me and my master's in Islamic education. So listen, everybody, 4th of July, eat what you want to eat. Eat to live, though. Eat to live. Do not eat to test your vital signs. If you have a barbecue rib and you eating it while you're trying to test your blood pressure, don't do that. And here's a sign. I'm not a doctor. But if your top number is 3 numbers and your bottom number is 3 numbers, you might want to get some help. All right. Peace out, Preacher Mars. This is a shout out show. Happy 4th of July. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Hey, everybody, this is your brother, Preacher Moss. Listen, I hope that you enjoyed your shout-out show experience. We'll be back with the next show, the next shout-out show. A simple ask before you go, please help your brother out. Click that subscribe button, click that notify button, and I'll see you again on this side of the microphone.